For generations, one Appalachian family has told the same strange story. They say something lives in the woods around their home. Something large. Something that walks upright. And according to the family, 3 generations have seen it. The grandfather saw something beside a road. His daughter later encountered a strange figure near the family home. And years afterward, his granddaughter looked toward a hill while playing with friends and saw something standing there, watching. 3 generations. 3 separate experiences. And 1 creature. But here's where the story becomes difficult to explain. Because the family wasn't telling a story they had discovered on the internet. They had grown up hearing warnings from older relatives about the woods around their property. And eventually, members of the family began claiming that they had encountered the very thing those stories had warned them about. Their names were Ernie, Linda, and Lakota. And their story became part of an episode of the television series Finding Bigfoot, which reported Sasquatch sightings along the Appalachian Trail. The family's connection to the land reportedly stretches back generations. According to accounts of their story, older members of the family had warned children not to wander too far into the woods. Stay where the adults could see you. Don't disappear behind the trees. Don't go somewhere nobody could hear you. At the time, those warnings could have sounded like ordinary advice from people who knew how dangerous remote woodland could be. But there was apparently another reason the family took the woods seriously. They believed something was out there. And then Ernie had his own encounter. He recalled an incident from decades earlier when he was driving along a road and noticed something beside it. At first, there was nothing obviously impossible about the scene. Then he realized what he was looking at. A large figure appeared to be holding a deer, and there was blood. Ernie reportedly moved closer because he couldn't make sense of what he was seeing. The figure did not look like an ordinary person. It didn't fit comfortably into any animal he recognized. And according to his account, the experience stayed with him for decades. But one strange encounter could still be explained in many ways. A bear can stand upright. Distance can distort size. Poor lighting can transform an ordinary animal into something unfamiliar. And memory can change over time. So Ernie's experience alone doesn't establish the existence of an unknown creature. Then came the next generation. His daughter, Linda, reportedly experienced unusual activity around the family property. According to the family's account, there were strange noises outside the house. Something seemed to be moving around in the darkness. And then came a detail that was much harder to forget. A figure was reportedly seen near a bedroom window. Not far away in the forest, not disappearing on a distant hillside, but close to the house. Close enough to create the feeling that whatever was outside wasn't simply passing through the area. It was approaching the home. And that changed the nature of the family's story. This was no longer just a story about something seen once beside a road. Now there appeared to be a pattern. The family believed the creature was coming onto their property, watching the house, moving around the edges of their lives. And then the youngest generation became part of the story. Lakota was playing soccer with friends when the ball moved down toward an area near a hill. She looked up, and according to her account, she saw a dark figure standing upright. Her friends reportedly thought it looked like a hairy man, but Lakota's mother believed she knew exactly what the figure was: a Sasquatch. Think about what makes that moment so unusual. Lakota wasn't an adult hunter searching for Bigfoot. She wasn't deep in the wilderness looking for evidence. She was simply playing with friends. Then she looked toward the hill. And there was something standing there, watching. For the family, that encounter became another link in a chain that had now crossed generations. Grandfather, mother, granddaughter. The same general environment. The same basic description. And the same belief that something unusual was living nearby. But there was a problem. If 3 generations had really been encountering the same unknown animal, where was the physical evidence? Where were the clear photographs? Where were the verified hair samples? Where were the footprints that could conclusively establish something scientifically unknown? This is where the story moves from evidence into uncertainty. The family's experiences are documented as reports. Their appearances on television are documented. Their claims can be examined, but the creature itself remains unverified. That distinction matters. A person's experience can be completely genuine without the explanation they give for it necessarily being correct. Someone can honestly believe they saw something extraordinary while still being mistaken about what that thing actually was. And that is one of the central difficulties with stories like this. The witnesses may be sincere. The memories may be powerful. The experiences may have shaped an entire family. But sincerity alone cannot establish what caused those experiences. The Appalachian landscape also provides plenty of opportunities for confusion. Dense forests, uneven terrain, and long distances can make ordinary objects appear very different from what they really are. At the same time, the fact that similar stories appear across multiple generations is exactly what keeps the family's account fascinating. Maybe the experiences were connected. Maybe they were separate incidents that were interpreted through a story the family had heard for years. Maybe something unusual really was moving through the area. Or maybe the human mind was connecting different events because the family already had a powerful expectation about what might be hiding in those woods. There is no definitive answer. And that's what makes the story so compelling. 3 generations believe they encountered the same creature. But after all these years, the evidence still leaves room for more than one explanation. The family has its memories. The television episode preserved their accounts, and the Appalachian woods still hold the mystery. What remains missing is the one thing that could settle the argument completely: proof. A person can sincerely report seeing something without being able to correctly identify what they saw. And that's especially true in the Appalachian forests. But skepticism doesn't automatically solve the mystery either, because the family didn't report one isolated event. They described experiences spread across generations, and the family wasn't alone in reporting unusual activity in the region. The Finding Bigfoot team traveled to the Appalachian area specifically to investigate reports of Sasquatch encounters. The 2017 episode was built around a family and community accounts connected to the region. So what could explain the family's experiences? There are several possibilities. The first is simple misidentification. Perhaps the figures were bears. Perhaps shadows and distance transformed ordinary objects into something much stranger. In a dense forest, even an animal that would look completely recognizable in an open field can become difficult to identify. A glimpse lasting only a few seconds may leave a person trying to reconstruct what happened long afterward. The second possibility is memory. Ernie's story existed before Linda and Lakota had their own experiences. That means the younger generations already knew what the family believed was living in the woods. Human expectations can influence perception. If you grow up hearing that a strange creature lives nearby, an unexplained shape in the forest may immediately become connected to that story. And once that connection is made, every unusual sound or movement can seem like another piece of evidence. Individually, each event may have an ordinary explanation. But when they are added to an existing family story, they can begin to feel like parts of the same mystery. But there is another possibility. Maybe the family really did encounter something they couldn't identify. That still wouldn't prove Bigfoot, but it would mean the mystery remains open. And that's what makes this case interesting. The question isn't simply, did they see Bigfoot? The more useful question is, what exactly were 3 generations of this family experiencing? Because there is one detail that makes their story particularly memorable. The family didn't describe the creature as something that appeared once and disappeared forever. They described it as something connected to their home, something they believed had been around for years, something that seemed to belong to the landscape. And that changes the psychology of the story. Imagine growing up in a place where your grandparents tell you not to wander too far into the woods. The woods are no longer just woods. Every movement becomes a question. Every unexplained sound becomes another possibility. And every dark shape between the trees becomes something worth looking at twice. That's the part of the story that doesn't require us to believe in Bigfoot. Because whether the creature exists or not, the experience was real to the people who reported it. But perhaps the strangest question is still waiting. If these people were all mistaken, Why did they keep describing something so similar? And if they weren't mistaken, what exactly had been living in those Appalachian woods? There is no scientific evidence from this case that proves the existence of Sasquatch. And that's where we have to stop separating the story from the evidence. Maybe investigators will discover that the mysterious figure was simply an animal repeatedly misidentified in difficult conditions. And perhaps that's why this case has remained so compelling. Because the mystery isn't just about a creature in the woods. It's about 3 generations of people who believe they encountered the same unexplained presence. And the question of whether they were all seeing the same thing, or whether the real mystery was hiding somewhere much closer to home, inside the human mind. Maybe the answer is somewhere between certainty and skepticism. The family may have genuinely experienced something unusual, while the explanation for those experiences remains unknown. And perhaps that's what makes these stories worth examining. Not because they automatically prove a legend is real, but because they remind us how difficult it can be to understand an unexplained event after it has already happened. What do you think Ernie, Linda, and Lakota actually saw? A real, unknown animal? Or another familiar creature mistaken for something else? Or something that still has no satisfying explanation? You decide.